Well, hello. I am still on Needles Highway. We're going to go through part of the wildlife loop, but not the whole thing, and then we're going to see some bison. And we'll just kind of see how much of the Iron Mountain Highway we cover. But in this direction, we're going to see Mount Rushmore framed as I come through each tunnel on the Iron Mountain Highway, which is a very interesting effect. And on my previous video where I visited this highway, I talked about why it's set up this way, so I don't want to go there today. On our last trip, I mentioned junk food books, and I talked about bad books. Of course, this is always a subjective subject. There is so much personal taste in this, and, as I noted, our tastes change as we age. So I'm going to talk about good books. But I want you to remember that, ultimately, a good book is one that you want to read and probably, ideally, reread. So I'm going to go a little bit out of order with this, but previously I've mentioned the Mice Quotient. I always provide a link to the Mice Quotient in my video descriptions for book reviews. So I provided that below. The Mice Quotient, of course, is Orson Scott Card's creation. Milieu, which is place, ideas, character, and events, which spells mice. So I'm going to go out of order with this. And I just want to note that all four of these areas can create a good book. And generally a good book is more than one of these areas, and I am well aware of that before I start this whole discussion here. But I will just say that memorable characters can really stick with you. I think of Atticus Finch in Harper Lee's classic, To Kill a Mockingbird. Now, I haven't reviewed that book on this channel yet, but I have reviewed her later book, or earlier book. I watched the review to get the whole story, but she definitely gave an extension of the character in her book, Ghost at a Watchman. But in To Kill a Mockingbird, he is described through the naive eyes of his 9-year-old daughter, Scout, as he confronts the worst, most racist impulses in his small 1930s southern town. Now, Gregory Peck gave him a very heroic presentation in the movie of the same name. Gregory Peck became the loving, gentle father who had to explain the worst of humanity to his young children. And these children actually became the focus of these awful people. Scout's 12-year-old brother, Jem, was even attacked and badly beaten by these people. And Atticus Finch had to explain that to his 9-year-old daughter. He also had to convince a racist jury of the real story behind the crime in the book. He stood up to a lynch mob. Atticus Finch is a memorable character, and yeah, this is not a movie review, this is a book review, but Gregory Peck was the absolute perfect actor to bring this character to life. Sometimes it's a memorable villain. In J.R.R. Tolkien's Lord of the Rings, Sauron casts a long shadow over the entire story, which is 3 books, by the way. He never once appears. But he is such a powerful character that it doesn't matter. He is that terrifying. Or maybe you read Frederick Forsyth's Day of the Jackal. The villain in the piece is never named. But we experience so much of that novel through his eyes. His research, his precision planning, his competent execute. Oops, I almost set my water on the by the microphone, which would have been a clunk. His competent execution, and he fails in the ultimate execution, but I mean the execution of his plan. These almost make us root for him. And sometimes our character is like John le Carré's George Smiley. He's a cuckold. He's hardly heroic. He's fat. He's not good looking. But he's smart. He's really smart. And right there, that is his power. But because of his other features, he is underestimated. People will rave about Alec Guinness's portrayal of George Smiley in the BBC miniseries. And yeah, Alec Guinness really brought that character to life. He wasn't really true to the character, which I'll come back to in a second. Gary Oldman portrayed the same character almost 30 years later. He didn't model himself on the books, because it's plural. He modeled himself on Alec Guinness's portrayal of the character. And even the author, John le Carré, admits his view of the character was forever muddled by Alec Guinness's portrayal because Alec Guinness tapped into the true essence of the character. Alec Guinness brought a powerful character to life. And that couldn't have happened without a truly powerful literary character, which John le Carré created. And this works even in nonfiction. Read about the powerful characters, who, by the way, are real people, who shaped water in the West in Cadillac Desert, which I've reviewed on this channel. Or read about the diverse cast that shaped the Alamo in the book Forget the Alamo, which I've also discussed on this channel. And I'm scratching the surface here because there is so much out there in nonfiction. So many beautiful, diverse characters, so many interesting people. And I've got 3 books kind of waiting in the hopper for a review on Werner Heisenberg, who is a fascinating German scientist who, by the way, has a lot to do with the way atomic weapons went during World War II. So we'll dive into that someday. Now, so I'll just ask, can you add any other memorable characters to my list here? Sometimes books have a milieu. Yeah, mice, but I'm definitely going out of order with the 4 words. Orson's Scott card covered a lot with these 4 letters. Sometimes the place is the story. J.R.R. Tolkien's Middle-earth is vividly alive. Am I currently living in the plains of North Dakota because of his vivid description of the plains of Rohan? Or am I here because Lois Lenski vividly portrayed a one-room schoolhouse in the plains of South Dakota? Her book, Prairie School, was a year in the life of a country school, and as it turns out, a vivid portrayal of a real place which ceased to exist at the end of the year that she visited the real place. In her book, you experience the death of a way of life. You experience the rotten stairs in the school, the window that needs to be fixed, the brutality of the blizzards of the plains, and the incredible distance to go to anything And, yeah, if you visit the real world town of McLaughlin, South Dakota, you're going to see the world that she captured. Now, just a hint of it. Technology has changed. The little one-room school, which she wrote about, is gone, and it's on private land, and you can't visit it. But you can see it on Google Maps. And again, there are stunning nonfiction books about places as well. Previously on this channel, I reviewed Tom Eisern's Pacing North Dakota. No, it's just a series of vignettes about the real world of small town North Dakota. A truly good book. Should make us think. Should make us consider new ideas. George Orwell projected the trends of the Stalinist Soviet Union into the future. He projected into, the year 1984. He wrote the novel in 1948. So, yeah, the novel of the name of the year, 1984. As it turns out, this isn't the future we've seen. But it was a powerful idea to think about, and in 1948 looked very possible. Aldous Huxley presented the idea of a very superficial future, full of distracting entertainment and nonsense, in his book, Brave New World. And yeah, it seems to match what we see now. Fun fact, there was a group associated with a certain church, of course, in my old high school, who attempted to have this book banned from the high school, because heaven forbid anybody think about these ideas. And I doubt these people ever read the book. They just kind of heard there was sex in it, and whoop! Ah! Never mind if there's something larger in the book. Which, I'm going to talk about that in an upcoming video, but not tonight. And of course, so many nonfiction books are full of powerful ideas. I want you to think of Marie... Okay, and this is a very popular book. Marie Kondo's The Life-Changing Magic of Tidying Up. Or Sarah Suzanka's The Not-So-Big House. You know, a lot of people change their lives thanks to Marie Kondo to saying, hey, just tidy up a little. Put stuff away. Fold your stuff. Value your possessions. And if you don't value them, why keep them? You know, Marie Kondo had a powerful message, and honestly, she played that out longer than I expected her 5 minutes of fame to last into several Netflix series. Sarah Suzanka never managed any kind of Netflix fame, but she talked about, hey, if you're going to build a house, make it a little smaller. You know, focus on those important details. Make it higher quality rather than larger space. Do you need all those rooms? Maybe better storage, maybe better use of your space, maybe better planning, maybe better decoration, you know, whatever it takes. Sarah Suzanka had a lot of good things to say. And I will admit, you know, as I looked at my outline after I, wrote out this whole video, I was really surprised this was the shortest section. Especially since reading has a lot to do with ideas. And, maybe it's because I'm just really struggling with the wealth of material in the area of ideas. So the mice quotient, the other area that I haven't discussed yet, is events. Now, I will concede there are tales where nothing happens, like Waiting for Godot, or I think that was the whole conceit behind the 90s comedy Seinfeld. But in general, we kind of expect to have a plot where things happen, because that's, kind of important if you're going to have a story. So, if you're looking for powerful events, I want you to think of books like Frank Herbert's Dune. Baron Vladimir Harkonnen sets events in place to destroy the Atreides family. And so many events come together in that book to create a slow-motion disaster. And the result of that is that it entirely changes the course of all human civilization, which Frank Herbert set out in his, I think, 6 books. I can't remember because his son kind of wrote a few, but his son's books aren't as good. But anyway, I will be doing the Dune series. I just haven't felt ready yet. I'm disappointed with my review of Hyperion, so I'm just kind of holding off on Dune till I feel better at book reviews. But anyway, what about the events of Hyperion? Speaking of book reviews I screwed up. You could argue that it's any type of story that I've mentioned. The milieu of that universe. The ideas of that universe. The different characters who form the basis of the book. But I decided to throw it into the events here. The stories which make it up are full of events that change humanity forever. We have the Technocore, which has been totally influencing human civilization. We have the opening of the Time Tombs. You have the Shrike. If you haven't read the book, there's so much there, so I don't want to go into the book, but a lot of events. And maybe you're into nonfiction. James Michener's The Bridge at Andau, which I have not reviewed yet, but that's one that's coming. I've reread that several times since high school. Because I bought that at a used bookstore in Olean, New York, fun fact. It tells the story of the Hungarian Revolution in 1957. There are plenty of characters, but it's definitely about how they all come together at a place. The Bridge at Andau. So, I think events are key. And when I review that book, I think you'll see that. Or there's Barbara Tuchman's The Guns of August, which covered the rapidly cascading first 30 days of the First World War. You get to see how insane it is that the whole thing happened. Because, yeah, that war is just like, what? At the same time, you also get to see that, yeah, that war was kind of inevitable. Scary stuff. And she brings it to life. And yeah, she brings up the characters. She brings up the generals, the kings, the princes, the various people that made that war actually turn into a war. Why wasn't that just a little action in one little piece of Europe? Barbara Tuchman explains it in Guns of August. So, yeah, very good book to read. So I think the larger idea here is I love a book that satisfies me. Because, yeah, I don't want to go away thinking, I need more. Okay, a little bit of that's actually good, but you know what I mean. I want to feel satisfied and yet wanting the book to not end. I want to feel like the universe just goes on after the book. I want to feel like the story is part of something larger. Something larger than the book. Read Dune. You know there's more than just the superficial events of the story. There are more great houses than those discussed in the book. There were all kinds of planets. There was all kinds of political intrigue. And we just kind of, scratched the surface of the whole universe. Yeah, we kind of took the most probably influential part of the whole universe, but we scratched the surface. In Hyperion, you are dropped into the universe and told to figure it out. But the book leaves you with a universe that spawned 3 more novels. And yeah, at the end of that 4th novel, I'm just like, no, I need more. I want to understand. It leaves you hungry for more. That's a powerful novel. And nonfiction should absolutely be the same. We should find something larger in it, something bigger than ourselves. You read that book and you're just like, but I gotta know. I need to know more about the subject. How can I use this? Oh, that is a really different look at that thing that I'd always taken for granted and assumed I understood. It is complicated. And that's how it should be. So, next time in this series, I'm going to talk more about the value of reading. And yeah, I'm going to talk a little bit more about good and bad books. And then after this little 3-video series concludes, we're going to leave South Dakota behind and head to northeastern North Dakota. So talk to you later. Bye-bye.